Mhm.
All right, awesome. Welcome into the Everyday Growth Advisors podcast, the first of its kind. And today we have the myth, the legend, Kevin Fomo with us from OptionsSwing. Many of you know Kevin Fomo as one of the most consistently profitable traders on our options group. And we are so pleased and so humbled to have him on our show today. So, welcome in, Kevin. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me. That was a great introduction.
Absolutely, man. The man has to be introduced the right way.
I'm just a normal guy, man.
Yeah, and he's humble too. That's what I was saying. The first thing when I heard your voice, I was like, "Yeah, you know what? This guy, he seems humble." So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Maybe you can start with your age, where you're from. Maybe if you're comfortable with sharing with us, what do you do for a living? I guess a lot of people want to know that, but we see you behind the shadows, working very hard every day to make us money, and we want to say thanks, man.
Yeah. Just a little bit about myself. I'm from SoCal, California.
Nice.
I'm in my early 30s actually, so I've been doing cloud cloud computing for a while. So that's my day job. I'm a cloud architect
Gotcha.
for a company down here in SoCal. Um, yeah, I mean, pretty typical guy. That's my day job, and I just trade options, kind of for fun.
On the side.
Yeah,
So
side
options
but
side chick.
working at home's been pretty good because we have more time to trade.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a benefit, right? Work from home and you can have some additional time to trade. So I'm guessing like when this schedule goes back and reverts to the normal schedule, maybe since you'll have to go in, it'll become a little more difficult and you won't. I remember actually, I remember when you used to go into work, we used to see a little less of you, but still nonetheless you used to still call out fire stuff though.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I look for good stuff, and I don't mind sharing with you guys because if we all make money, it's great, right? And
Absolutely.
just
Absolutely.
I'm happy to see other people make money too because why the hell not?
Yeah, man. And I keep telling people that it's like when you have a piece of knowledge and you don't share it with somebody, you don't become wealthier by withholding that knowledge. You in fact you become poorer because if you share that knowledge with somebody, somebody could possibly ask the right questions and in fact make you a better person. And
Absolutely.
I'm a firm believer of that. Like, especially, if I share ideas with you or you share ideas with me, and we both throw our ideas out in the open, suddenly a new idea may be formed. So I love that. And so, what are some of your hobbies, man? What do you do in your free time apart from options trading? Do you do any sports? Do you know, swim?
Uh, yeah, I do a lot of stuff. Hobbies. I'm kind of outdoor type of guy. So out
Nah.
out here in SoCal, we have a lot of good like hiking trails and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Play basketball. I'm a big hockey fan actually. And then play some video games on the side, and that's it. And
Which video games do you play, man?
well, recently I've been playing PlayStation 4, Final Fantasy 7 remake. So
Ooh,
yeah.
nice. Okay, okay, nice. And I think a lot of people they want to ask this question because I've had maybe five people ask me this. Okay, so let's get it out of the way. What ethnicity are you?
I'm Chinese.
Okay, perfect. There we go. There was a lot of guesses. In
Mhm.
fact, I think there was a side bet going on in the option swing channel where people were betting that you were Korean. So guys, you
What?
lost.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
Pretty close. Pretty close. Cool. All right. I guess we got the kind of the niceties out of the way. Let's maybe get into a little bit of the juicy stuff. So maybe you can share with us how long you have been trading for, right? I think that's one thing that people want to know.
All right. So I started out in 2008 when the first big recession happened in our lifetimes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was basically trading just normal common stocks, and I remember
Ah,
the first trade I did was I think I bought Bank of America at like $3 or something like
oh
that,
my
and
goodness.
it was way back. And every stock back then in 2008, 2009 went down to like 80% off their highs.
Oh
It was
yeah,
crazy. It was a crazy time.
yeah, that was insane.
Um, and then I did that for a little bit. I didn't really get into options until about 2013, which is just a
Oh,
couple
okay.
years ago. Well, 7 years ago. But
Yeah.
it was an evolution because you don't really learn how to do options until you know all the fundamentals and of
100%. And
regular stock.
I cannot, you see, this is the thing, man. You see, the way that you learn options trading and the way that I learn options trading is exactly the same. I had traded stocks for the longest time. In fact, I went through a different journey. I started trading Forex, right? And I went through
Okay.
a lot of fundamentals before I even jumped into options. But I see the new generation are skipping entirely the first volume and reading the second volume right away. And, sometimes it's very difficult when you make that jump without knowing the fundamentals of the market. You know what I mean? Um,
Absolutely. Hmm.
okay, tell us how, like, what inspired you to get into trading? Like in 2008, when you first started, was there like a catalyst, someone or something that made you want to invest?
Not much, just another like form of like side income.
Right.
A lot of people have like side hustles.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For me, it's not really about like business on the side or anything. I just wanted to have another like income stream, right? I mean, because everyone has like a 401k or like retirement account, but you feel like you can do something else by yourself that's better. So that's how I kind of got into stocks. Plus, I mean, I saw the market tank, so it was a great time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Best time for undervalued stocks. You go in, put some liquidity in there, get some cheap picks, and then you just sit on them for a while and boom, that's it, right? That's the name of the game.
Hmm.
Awesome. And do you remember what was your first stock that you bought? Was it Bank of America?
It was Bank of America, yeah,
Hey.
BAC stock.
Yeah, that was a good stock to buy, man. Even I think Berkshire bought a shit ton of it when it was super down. So, um,
Yeah, yeah.
cool. Okay. And okay, so let's get into a little bit more of peeling the outer shell of Kevin Fomo here. So, many people want to know, and I guess I'm sure that you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of your secret sauce, but what are some of the resources and tools that you use to do research? Like, what do you look for when you're formulating a case study for picking a stock, for example? Is there some like specific thing you look at?
I don't know. That's hard to say. You take a look at everything that's kind of going around on the news, right, and around the world. And
Uh-huh.
you can kind of formulate, like different types of theses about how the market is kind of behaving right now and what like what humans think, right? So when I pick stocks, I only pick good companies, right, that have a good balance sheet, they're profitable, they're making money.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when I look at charts or like any type of technicals, obviously, I don't like to catch the falling knife because that's just gambling, right? So
Yes,
so
yeah.
like you look for, right, like upswings, breakouts, bouncing off support, you know breaking through resistance, all those type of things kind of all add up, and it helps me formulate a play. And I always look for different types of catalysts,
Uh,
whether it's earnings or conferences or big events. All those things help drive up a stock, and that's how I kind of come up with my plays.
okay, cool. So you look for either things that are bouncing off a swing high or low, you look for the catalyst, and then if you see a couple of things combined together, that's kind of usually the way you formulate your case study and then formulate a trade from there. Gotcha. Okay, cool. And are you more of a fundamental based trader or a technical based trader, do you think?
I think I'm a combination of both.
Okay.
I don't go by just straight technicals. I mean, I believe in them, but it's just too much work. And then when you're wrong, you question yourself. Hey, it should have went this way, right? So I'm kind of a combination of both guys. Both.
Yeah, that's definitely me too. I kind of use like a almost like a 60-40 approach where I use like 60% fundamentals and then 40% technicals. I use the technicals purely for my entries and exits, based
Hmm.
volumes or technicalities such as moving averages or stuff like that. So I can
Hmm.
hear what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a specific way like you screen companies maybe? Like do you use a scanner? Do you have a criteria that you use? Or do you just go through like do you have a watch list? Like how do you get so many tickers or how do you go through and get so much of variety? Because I realize, majority of the time, your breadth can be pretty wide. Like the sectors that you play in are huge, different sectors, right?
Yeah, just over the years, I have this huge list, watch list, what you just said. So I don't use any type of special screeners or anything like that. I'm my own personal watch list,
Okay.
and I just keep an eye on them. And then
You're like me then.
like I don't even use like a specialized program or anything to alert me. I just watch it.
Yeah.
And then if I see something that looks good, I jump.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I do, except for I guess my watch list is a little smaller than you. Uh, I probably watch like 15 stocks, but then I watch 15 stocks that I know very well.
Uh-huh.
So, like, intimately understand them. Like, for example, Roku, right? I
Mhm,
know, I know by now that Roku can make fake outs very easily.
mhm,
And volume, like, it's a very volatile stock. It could run really quickly or it could drop really quickly. So over time, you develop that relationship with the stock after you trade it for a while, and you kind of figure out that it's one of those stocks that will essentially either make or break you, and so you have to be really careful setting a tight stop and stuff like that.
mhm. That's pretty much what I do.
Wow, sounds like we have a similar but not the same strategy.
Mhm. Pretty
Okay.
close.
One thing that I realized also, and I think I've learned this one from you over time watching you make trades, is also playing these breakouts when a stock breaks out from all-time high and keeps running. And I really like this strategy actually. I wanted to touch on it a little bit with you. Um,
Mm.
you have a specific way that you think about a breakout when it happens. Are there any key indicators that you look for a breakout pattern?
Not really. You know what? I just keep it simple. When you break out to an all-time high, there's no more resistance. So I
Right.
can just keep. And then when things break out, people have FOMO, so they get in.
Right. So the trading
That's
cycle.
it.
Uh-huh.
Super simple, man.
Yeah, and then it
Keep
just this the stock just goes into a euphoric mode where people just keep buying in. Um,
exactly.
then I guess
And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say I guess the right way to go about that is you just keep moving your stop loss up. So instead
Hmm.
of trying to time the top and when it's going to fall, you just keep locking in profit and moving it higher and higher. And that way, you kind of maximize your profit region, right?
Yeah, just keep a tight stop. I always tell the chat to kind of respect your stops. And
Yeah.
then always take profit too. Like on the way up, you can always sell one contract, two contracts,
Yeah. Lock
five.
in.
I mean, and then lock it in and just move off your stops. And either way, you're gonna make money. So you know,
Yeah.
just the way to do it. Hmm.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's a great one. I personally like that method a lot. I have been playing it with good success. Honestly, these breakout patterns that occur on all-time highs, they're actually a very nice strategy, and I learned that one from you. So I thank you for that. I've been watching you do that for a while, and I'll say, hey, you know what? There may be something to this. And sometimes it's the simplest things. You don't really think about it much, but then you go back and you're like, maybe I need to start thinking about this more. And then, you formulate like a more better strategical advantage. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Do
I'm
you,
glad you made
during
money.
your trade planning or analysis, do you aim to have like a certain risk to reward ratio?
Sometimes, I look at some of the charting and I have like a target price
Right.
that I'll get to.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't because if I'm playing in, let's say, like an earnings play, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, those usually run. From my experience,
Yeah.
you can lock in 50%, or to the run up, you can be up to 300%,
Right.
and
Right.
then a lot of the time I say sell, lock in your profits, and just let it ride for the earnings. I mean, most of the time, well, I don't know if it's most of the time, but it's either gonna be really good or really bad. So that's kind of that's how I do it.
Yeah, but like at that point in time, you're already free rolling, so it doesn't really matter much. It's either you lose some of everything that you are free rolling, or you lose, or you win really bigger, right? So it's kind of like a win-win situation in a way. So
Hmm.
yeah, I like that strategy too. In case somebody doesn't understand what we're talking about here, is Kevin uses a strategy where you play a stock up to earnings, where you buy into the stock prior to the earnings. And let's say you're expecting the stock to be bullish, you kind of buy the option prior to the earnings a week before and play the implied volatility rush, where the implied volatility spikes and the contract price spikes. And along with it, usually what you can do is sell off a bunch of contracts to cover the cost basis of your position. Let's say it costed you $2 to buy the contract and you bought 4 contracts at $800. You can cover, let's say the contracts are up 100%. Well, you can sell 2 contracts and keep 2 contracts as a free roll and then play the earnings for free. That's what we're talking about here. So I just wanted to give some context to what we were talking about, because maybe some people may not understand. Um, but yeah, that's what we were talking about. Uh, but yeah, I love that strategy, man. I think it's a great one as well. Another one of the great things that I've learned from you. Man, there's so much knowledge on this Discord. It's ridiculous. Honestly, I'm so blessed to be here. It's crazy.
I learned too. I mean, it's a great resource for anyone that's a part of it. It's just great. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Shout out to Jason and Jose for setting up such an amazing community. I think that the OptionsSwing has definitely changed my life. Like, I can say it with 100% certainty, because so many things have happened since then that I just can't fathom, and my life has changed. So, thank you to
Hmm.
okay. So moving on here, how intensive is your charting? Like, what do you look for certain patterns? Many people want to know if you actually chart a lot before you trade, or you kind of just have a basic approach to looking at support and resistance, supply and demand zones, maybe moving averages, volumes. Is that as basic as you go? Because honestly, that's how I do it. I don't go crazy with making a laser light show on my screen.
No, I'm pretty simple. I look at the moving averages, obviously. Support and resistance is probably the main thing.
Right.
Um, I look at if there's any type of like Elliott waves being made, or I used to look into the kind of Fibonacci stuff, but it just kind of makes your like decisions not so good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so support and resistance are the key factors, and I look at trend and momentum,
Hmm.
and then obviously, well, I mean, if you're just talking about charting, yeah, that's all I do. But fundamentally, it's a little different.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Fundamentally, it's a completely different thing. Maybe we'll get into a little bit of fundamentals towards the end of this convo. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that so for me personally, I use the moving averages. I use support and resistance. I use 2 types of volume. One is a momentum-based volume, which is the unbalanced volume, and then the second one is a regular volume bar, right? And I think that those combinations work extremely well together. Personally, I've had good success doing it,
Mhm.
especially when you're kind of putting everything together to have an approach where if A matches with B, matches with C, and then fundamentals are good, that kind of gives you a nice bullish case, right? Or a bearish
Yeah.
case, whatever that you feel. Okay, cool. Good to know. I and then another thing that I wanted to touch on was going back on your point on Fibonacci retracements and extensions. I definitely agree with you there, man. So one thing I've realized is people are more than likely misusing Fibonacci's um, by inaccurately drawing extensions, and I see it happen a lot more than often,
Mhm.
where somebody gets carried away drawing a Fibonacci extension above, trying to forecast where the stock is going to go, but they don't draw it in the right manner.
Mhm.
And I feel like Fibonacci is best used for a retracement strategy where there are overextensions or corrections. I think personally I've had good success. For example, when SPY sold off during the COVID-19 crash,
Mhm.
you can see clearly the 61.8 level was a very, very, very significant level, right? The retracement level.
Hmm.
So I definitely do like using Fibonacci for only retracements, not extensions. I feel like what you said, when you use it for extensions, it gets a little wonky. So I agree with you there. I agree with you there.
Yeah. Mhm.
So moving on to a little bit about fundamentals, right? So when you're, let's say, for example, let's just take, for example, like Microsoft as a business, right? Uh, I
Mhm.
I was actually just looking at Microsoft as a business day before yesterday. Yeah, day before yesterday on the live stream. I actually did my own intrinsic value calculation using a DCF model. So kind of using a discounted cash flow model, and I actually came out with a intrinsic value of about $234, which means Microsoft is actually undervalued, and it would make sense because Azure cloud is really a nice little diamond that Microsoft has, uh, and then they have a whole plethora of diversified portfolio products that really contribute to their EPS, right? So, what are
Mhm.
things that you look at in the fundamentals?
Well, I mean, I keep it simple. Like I look at PEs and I look at EPS and year-over-year growth. So, obviously you want to look at growth, right? And so looking at revenue is really important. Um, Compare quarters,
Absolutely.
not so much, but it's kind of tough. Because if a company has very good EPS, they can still go down, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, when I look at fundamentals, those are important. Sometimes I look at like balance sheets just to see how much cash they're holding,
Right,
and
right.
then that's really important too because like you want to be sure that this company can survive even through something like COVID. Uh,
Absolutely.
a lot of these companies had so much cash on hand, you know they weren't going anywhere, so it was very easy to pick them up when they dropped 50-60%, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So that's some of the stuff I look at.
right. Yeah,
Mhm.
actually,
But I keep it simple. I mean, it's if you look too hard into it, you kind of drive yourself crazy too.
yeah. Uh-huh. I agree. I agree. You start thinking about all the stars and the patterns, and then you're like, oh, this is just way too hard. What do you think about Microsoft, man? I'm really liking the way the stock is kind of holding its level, and the future seems bright for that company, and especially since leadership is strong. I know it's been consolidating for a while, but I wanted to know maybe what do you think about it?
I like it. I'm actually in some leaps for 2021 January
Nice.
190 leap. Yeah, I like the company, and I think I have some common shares of the stock too. So
Yeah,
it's a good company.
yeah, I got a couple of long data contracts for December. I have 185 calls from Microsoft as well. I got them
Nice.
back. They're in a slight loss right now because the kind of the IV's been drained out of that particular contract. But I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I have so much time on them, and Microsoft is not a business that's going away anytime soon. Um,
No, if anything, they're good. They're getting better.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
and
a good pick.
when I look at the competition between Azure and AWS, obviously AWS is a mammoth, right? Um,
Hmm.
but then when I think about how much Azure is doing as well, they're really kind of neck and neck in terms of market share.
Hmm.
We're gonna have to see how this pans out, and then also there was the whole thing about the Pentagon contract with the Jedi. That's also, I think, still in the works. But when I look at that as well, it's a very small portion of Microsoft revenue. It comes down to like 1% of its revenue per month, per quarter, or something like that.
It's
Um,
tiny. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very small. So actually, many people think that the Jedi contract is going to make a big difference to even if they lose it. But
Hmm.
personally, I don't think it makes a big difference. In fact, I don't think it'll move the stock at all. Um, it makes up a small percentage of revenue. Uh,
It was for 5 billion or something, right? Which is
yeah, yeah. I
tiny
think
for them.
it's 10 billion, but then it's like
But
broken up, right? Because it's over quarters. So if
mhm,
you realistically look at it, it's like a very small percentage of the revenue per year. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I definitely like Microsoft. Are there any long-term holdings that you're looking at right now that maybe you like? I like Microsoft particularly. I like Amazon. By the way, I did an intrinsic calculation on Amazon too, based on its cash flows, and I found its intrinsic value to be close to $3,000. So seems like there is also significant upside with Amazon. Just got to
that's Yeah, my price target actually for Amazon.
Yeah, 3,000, right? About there.
Yep.
I got
Hmm.
3,003, but then I adjusted the cost of capital because I found cost of capital is going to increase for Amazon during this time period, just
Hmm.
because COVID, they're going to have more expenses, and it was prevalent. You saw the previous earnings that just came out.
Q1, yeah, big time. They spent a lot of money.
Exactly. So I took a 13% cost of capital and did my calculation. Um, Came up to about 3,000 instead of 3,300 when I was taking 10%. So
Okay.
yeah, I think I guess align on that as well. It's the same thing with Amazon, right? It's expensive stock, but it's difficult to get the timing right, so you kind of have to just buy common stocks, and kind of sit on them if you have the capital. If you don't, then you have to try and look for a spread that will give you that kind of exposure, or buy leaps if you really have the capital. That would be the best strategy, right?
Yeah, yeah. With that you can go on margin too, but I wouldn't recommend
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that either. Okay. Nice, man. It's always good to trade ideas like this. Do you have like a dividend portfolio that you own?
that. I have a whole bunch of common stocks too.
Okay.
So just trying to think off the top of my head. I'm in some REITs right now, so some
Nice.
ETFs. I'm in one called Main. Another one, Store, STOR. I really like that. EPR. It's like a entertainment commercial REIT that I like. It's up a lot. It's from the lows.
Nice.
Uh, as far as dividend, I I have some ExxonMobil, some other. I don't know. I gotta look, but
I like
some other.
ExxonMobil. That's another one that I'm looking at right now, actually. I've been talking about it in the chat for a while. ExxonMobil is one of the ones that I want to buy and hold for a while as well. Good dividend paying stock.
Oil's
Um,
cheaper now. Yep.
Exactly. Get in, when it's cheaper, wait for it to go up. Dividend's going to stay the same. Should be a nice payout. So I'm looking to get some contracts on that stock as well. So let's see.
Yeah, and then and I think I have Lowe's and Home Depot. Some of those other ones too, like
Yeah,
really good, strong companies that will be around forever. So
yeah,
that's what you.
absolutely. Agreed,
Yeah.
man. Agreed.
Hmm.
Okay, let's see. All right. So people want to know this, and I wanted to keep this for a little bit towards the later portion of our chat. um,
Okay.
Questions. Well, actually, three. How many accounts have you nuked? First question.
uh, a lot. You know.
Right? I think you have to nuke. If you don't nuke, you don't learn, and then if you don't learn, you don't be successful, right? That's the only way you learn.
The first account that I had when I was trading options, I think I deposited $2,500. I think,
Uh-huh.
which was a lot of money to me at that time.
Right.
And I think my first options trade ever, I can't remember anymore. Was must have been like Square or something like that
Uh-huh.
early on, or a little bit later on. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, that account went from 2,500. I remember to like 4,000, and then to zero. Well,
Oh
not zero, pennies.
God.
Uh, at least so that account got nuked. I I nuked another account too that I had actually pretty recently. I think I
Guys,
deposited.
even Kevin Fomo nukes account. It's not just you.
Like it happens to the best of us, and
Yeah, of
when you
course.
take big risks,
Yeah.
sometimes you get killed. So, I
Yep,
mean,
yep. I've nuked at least 5 accounts. I've said it so many times. Before I learned how
it's
it works.
normal to lose it all, but it's about persistence and coming back and doing it right and trying to make it back.
Yep. But if I could go back and tell myself a piece of advice, would be after the second nuke, just stop. Just stop and go nuke a paper trade account instead of losing your own money. Which I told myself.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's better to walk away, but when you think you're good at something, you can always give it a shot again. But
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I agree with that so much. Okay. What was your biggest loss ever?
biggest loss ever
Yeah.
must have
And
been.
I know it's not gonna be something crazy because I know you're pretty good with risk management. So I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be like a crazy loss unless it happened early on, I guess.
Uh, you know what? It's actually pretty funny. This is a really good story. Actually, happened this last year.
Okay.
Okay, so Tesla, right? It's
Yeah.
trading at $800 something now.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I think this was Q2 2019.
Uh-huh.
They were trading at like what 200 or something.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, I ran up. I was Q2 earnings. I had a huge play on. I think I was in for about, I don't know, 40,000 or something, and it ran up to about 70. And I held it through earnings because I was so confident that was gonna hit big, and
Okay.
they missed really bad.
Oh man.
96% loss or something on that play.
Whew. All
Yeah, that
40
was
bye-bye?
huh?
Almost all the 40K bye-bye then?
All of it. Yeah, all of it. Well, it was technically 70 at that time, but
Oh,
40 total. So yeah, that's fine.
oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah,
that's been an interesting one. Jeez. How do
kind
you
of learned my that
you
actually.
mentally come out of that one, man? You just walk away.
Uh, chip and chip and build it back up.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I was one quarter too late, so I did a Q3 to the moon.
Ooh, right. I think that was the first quarter that they turned profitable, right?
Exactly. I was a quarter too early.
Yeah. That was a good one. I remember that. And no one can forget the most legendary play that I've ever seen you make. Like this one will go down in my memory as the most craziest thing that has ever happened on Option Swing. And I remember this as clear as the sky that's above me right now. Your biggest, I don't know if it's your biggest win. It might have been close to your biggest win, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say it anyway because this one was simply insane. I'm gonna ask you what your biggest win was after this, but I just want to get this out there that this actually happened and I was there to witness it. And this is the craziest Kevin Fomo play that I have seen ever was Amazon earnings. I want to say 2 quarters ago. Yes, 2 quarters ago, where Kevin Fomo called $2,100 calls for a weekly expiry on Amazon while it was reporting earnings on a Thursday for a weekly contract expiring on Friday, and they costed something like, I don't know, $10, right? $10 or
Hmm.
and the next day, those contracts were worth $110 or $120. Oh my goodness! What a day on the OptionsSwing chat group. I remember winning trades coming up the next day. People messaging me, asking me if their plays were going to go from 1K to 10K, and I woke up so confused. I was like, "What is going on?" And I see Amazon is up 11% after hours, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I think
That
that was the
yeah,
most craziest thing I've seen.
that was a good play. All the all the pieces were all the stars aligned on that play. So I
Yeah.
guess we did it right, but we got lucky too. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think you were expecting it to make a move up, but then you weren't expecting it to make such a big move up, and it went deep in the money too. It was crazy. I think
yeah,
Amazon.
I was looking at. I remember I was expecting maybe 5 to 7%. I think it
Yeah,
hit up to what 14%,
yeah,
something
yeah,
crazy, 7%.
yeah. The next day it was like 14%. It's crazy, man. That was
Yeah,
a
that was.
legendary play. Was that your biggest win?
No, no, actually not.
Oh my,
Uh,
what was your biggest win? Yum yum.
I mean, my biggest hit was actually pretty recent. I had bought Amazon 3,000 leaps
Okay,
at the March lows basically.
okay.
Yeah, that one hit for, I don't know, a little over 500,000, I think.
Oh my goodness, man. Gee.
Yeah, that one was pretty big. So
Whew. Kevin Fomo, the craziest wins, man. I've seen some crazy plays from you, bro. Honestly, I think you must be up at least $1 million this year. So that's something insane to me. I hope that I can replicate what you're doing sometime down the road. But I'm kind of like building a consistency basis right now. So I
mhm.
hope that I have been trying to kind of adopt a strategy that's kind of in between what I can learn from you and put together what I'm doing as well. So, dude, thank you, man, for your knowledge and your expertise. It really helps sometimes. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. So, okay, I guess one last question, or maybe if you have any advice for people, do you have any advice in terms of trading psychology for our listeners? So I know psychology is a huge part of trading, and I've told this so many times to people. For me personally, I'm going to embark on my master's in finance very shortly, sometime this year. Probably in August, in the fall. I'm gonna be actually I'm gonna be in NorCal, bro. So I'll be going up to Northern California. I'll be based in San Jose for a while, and my school's actually going to be in Moraga, St. Mary's College. So after I finish my master's, I'm going to probably pursue my PhD in behavioral finance, which is a area of expertise that I'm super interested in. I really like the psychology behind trading, and I really want to explore and do further studies on it. So do you have any advice on trading psychology? Like, do you think there are certain things that stand out to you that you think people should know about?
That's
A loaded
tough.
question.
It's loaded. Yeah, it's
Take your time though. You don't need to feel rushed to answer it all at once. Maybe think about some of the things that you think that have really helped you. It could be the simplest things.
yeah. We could talk about this for hours, but one of the things I've learned over the years is it's market psychology is they play with human emotions. That's
Absolutely.
absolutely one.
Yeah.
The big money, they're in it and they're waiting for all the small retail guys like us
Yeah.
to just quit, and then
Right.
that's when they come in, snatch up all the shares for cheap,
Yeah.
and that's how they make their money. So you have to think in the terms of these big guys.
Yeah.
So when you want to quit, that's when you should buy, or that's when you should average down. So buy, Warren Buffett says this, right? You buy when everyone's fearful. Like, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And sell when everyone's euphoric. I think those are the very simple ways. If you want to get any deeper, psychology is, it's, yeah, the whole market is a mind game. And
Absolutely.
then you know try to think. I always think it's like a 4D game of chess.
Yeah.
There's so many multiple layers,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but
Yeah.
persistence is the key too. I mean, and you have to put in the time. Like, you can't just go into trades blind and expect to make 10 bags. It's like, you have to put in the time, the effort, and usually you'll do okay. So
I agree. In fact, I realized, see, this week we had a lot of new traders join us, right? Because, we had a big sign up sheet, and I think we must have had an influx of about 200 new traders that have joined OptionsSwing. And this week alone, I've gotten a lot of direct messages from people who have blown up their accounts, which is, that is absolutely everything that we are trying to prevent. We want,
mhm,
to come in and be profitable, and we want to teach them how to fish instead of handing them fish. But the problem is that majority of them, they come in wanting fish, and so I'm actually going to go through this on the live stream today, this evening. A couple of strategies on how to avoid them, like basic things like waves, right? I don't think people understand the concept of waves. Like what you just said, there are those bouts of liquidity that market makers and institutional investors are waiting for retail traders to sell off so that they can get in cheaper, and then they provide the demand, and it pushes that stock up way higher than where it was. It's kind
mhm.
of figuring out where those are, how to spot those. So I'm going to go through that on the live stream today, um, and I think that it should be kind of helpful. Um, but yeah, dude, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And then last question was, how do you get over the mental barrier of making large gains or making large losses? Like, is there, do you have a way to deal with those? Because I guess what the question is here is, especially for large gains, people tend to get carried away when they make a lot of money, and I've said this many times, don't get greedy and don't, dump. Like, your risk management style should be the same. It's like playing blackjack, right? You keep your system the same, and over time, if you keep it the same, then you will have probability flat out across the board, right? So is there a particular thing that you would like to say to our listeners that, maybe would help them through this?
Um, you know what? Just honestly, don't bet anywhere between, don't be betting 100% of your bank, your brokerage account on one play.
Right.
Want to keep it around 1 to 5% maybe.
Yeah, that's
And
nice.
yeah, just try to maintain your bankroll basically. Like you said, through playing blackjack, you're not gonna go all in randomly on one hand, right?
Yeah.
So it's like handling the ups and downs is normal. If you start losing money and it hurts you mentally, maybe you're trading too much. So
Right.
I would reduce your bets a little bit. And
Absolutely.
then on these huge gains, sometimes you get kind of carried away. Oh, I've hit this for 500%. Now I'm gonna throw it all in on this play, and then if you lose it, then you're back to square one, right?
Yeah.
So, like you were saying, just try to control, try to be consistent, and you slowly build your account. And
Yeah.
then when you get to the point where you can take big risks and not hurt yourself mentally, or then that's when you can do that.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, just
Well,
be smart about the money.
yeah. It's so sad because common sense is no longer common, man. But it's that's the thing about it. And
Yeah.
obviously, it's people are not they've not been prepared by a formal education to succeed in this market. The stock market is not something that you can come into and expect to win, because I always like to think of it as when you go into the stock market, you are walking to a casino. The odds are against you, and you have to develop a system that is going to allow yourself to benefit from the position sizing, the risk management. That's what gives you the edge, because those are the things that are in your control. Price action and everything else is beyond your control. So I always try to profess that, and it's difficult sometimes. People don't understand it. Um,
That's really good advice right there. I that's key right there. So,
yeah.
and you said it well. You said it well.
Yeah. Well, hey, Kevin, it's been amazing having you here. And honestly, I would love to jump on a call like this in the future and discuss a completely different topic. So, maybe in the future when you're free and you have some time on your hands, we could do another one of these podcasts and, let the world hear a different topic. Because I feel like, we have a great, conversation flowing, and I like the vibes. And I really thank you for taking your time out to be here. Appreciate everything, man. You're a standout guy, and I hope that you're being safe over there in SoCal.
Mhm.
Thank you for this great wisdom and knowledge, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm down to talk again, and then hopefully everyone can learn more about this, and we all learn. So it was
Absolutely.
good.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned for another podcast coming in from the EGA, Everyday Growth Advisors podcast series. This is the first of many that will be posted online for you guys so that you don't have to stare at your screens and watch me aimlessly click the mouse on the live streams. This is just one other way that I'm going to be giving back to the community. So stay tuned for more, and till next time.